Southern California, good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. We have plenty to talk about today, such as the Lakers. Lakers, although it was a tough and rigorous journey, they are into the postseason, and they will be attempting to repeat as champions. Can they match up well against the Phoenix Suns? And the Clippers draw the Dallas Mavericks, as it's a rematch from last year's first-round matchup. Can the Clippers make it out of the first round, or will they fall short and have a trip to Cancun? Also, we have USC not winning not one, but two national championships, as they won an NCAA Beach Championship a couple weeks ago, and last weekend they won the NCAA Women's Water Polo Championship. So good for the Trojans. Great for the Trojans, actually. And then we also have the Dodgers starting to get a little of their swagger back, while the Angels are unfortunately struggling because of their bullpen issues. And also we have the Chargers and the Rams' schedule being released, as last week I wasn't here, but this week I'm here, I've returned, and I will be talking about the Rams and the Chargers schedule and what to expect. Also, we have some NHL debriefing, as the Kings and the Ducks are not in the postseason, which is not really surprising, but I gotta go over it. And then we have some MLS talk, as the Galaxy are doing great, while LAFC is heading the other direction. What's going on with them? All that and more here on the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome one, welcome all to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Thank you for joining me on this beautiful Friday afternoon. It really means a lot, and I apologize if I wasn't here last week. I know I said I'd be here for the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, but unfortunately I got busy, and I just wrapped up finals and whatnot, so I needed a week to just debrief and just not do a show on Friday. I know I do Set Point a lot more than I do SoCal Supreme Sports Show, but Set Point comes on Mondays and Tuesdays, while SoCal Supreme Sports Show is most likely on Fridays and sometimes Saturdays. So it is what it is. I'm back this week, and we are going to be talking about a lot of Southern California sports. And without any further delay, let's get on into the SoCal sports. But first, we have a word from our sponsor. The official sponsor of IE Sports Radio is the Southern California Warriors semi-pro football team. The world of semi-pro sports is unlike any other sports organization. Players pay to play in hopes of so many different outcomes, whether it's playing to get filmed to try out for professional teams, big-time colleges, or just playing to stay in shape. No matter what, all semi-pro players have one thing in common, and that's playing for the love of the game. The SoCal Warriors have been on a quest to earn titles and give players second chances since 2017. Whether you're in Southern California or anywhere in the world, give semi-pro sports a chance if you love your sport. You may get that second chance you have been waiting as an athlete. You can follow Southern California Warriors on Twitter at SoCal Warriors. You can follow them on Instagram at Southern California_Warriors. You can follow them on Instagram by going to the search bar and typing the word Southern, then the word California, then the word Warriors, and then poof, you've got Southern California Warriors on your search feed, and all you just need to do is like and or follow them. And thank you to Southern California Warriors for being the official sponsor of IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And if you want to follow IE Sports Radio, give them a follow on Twitter at IE Sports Radio. You can follow them on Instagram at IE Sports Radio. And if you're on Facebook, go to the search bar, type in the word IE, the word sports, and the word radio, and then poof. If you see a black banner with white letters, that's us. And once you just click on that, and you click like and follow, you're going to be following us. So there's that right there. So thank you once again to Southern California Warriors for helping keep the lights on here at IE Sports Radio. Without any further delay, let's get on into the Southern California action that has happening. But first, let's go over the debriefing with the Kings and the Ducks. So obviously the NHL playoffs are happening right now, and unfortunately for the Kings and the Ducks, they missed the postseason. The Kings finished 6th in the Western Division. The top 4 teams of each division go to the postseason, and the Kings finished 6th. They were a whopping 14 points away from making the postseason as they finished behind Arizona and St. Louis. The Coyotes didn't qualify for the playoffs, but the Blues did, as well as the Wild, the Vegas Golden Knights, and the Colorado Avalanche. The Ducks fared no better than the Kings, as the Ducks finished dead last in the Western Division, which really sucks, but it is what it is. Like I really was expecting better from the Ducks. At least the Kings looked somewhat interesting, as they had a winning streak, and then they just went ice cold. So there's that. And it really sucks, considering I really think that's the Achilles heel of Southern California, and that's NHL. Like, the Ducks were so bad, they finished with the second worst record and the second fewest points behind Buffalo, or ahead of Buffalo. Buffalo finished with 37 points. So that just speaks to volumes that the Ducks are still rebuilding, and it's very disappointing. But at least they're going to get a high draft pick for the most part. And then the Kings were no better. Like, they finished 6 points ahead of the Ducks, and they tied for 6th with the San Jose Sharks, but the Sharks had lost the tiebreaker between the Kings and whatnot. So the Kings are basically the best of the worst between them and San Jose, which kind of hurts their draft stock, but it is what it is. So there's that. All right, so that's the debriefing of the Kings and the Ducks. I just hope one, if not both teams, are able to get back to snuff. So there's that right there. And yeah, that's that for the NHL. Here's hoping next year's better. So now let's jump to the NFL. Everyone wants to hear mostly about the NFL. So the Chargers and the Rams both released their 2021 schedule for the upcoming season, which I was really intrigued by. I mean, I'm not one to care for schedule releases, just because I don't see the hype in them. I mean, everyone is all excited for their team and whatnot, but I just don't see the hype. I mean, it's cool and all, but it's not that exciting. I mean, it's just football. It's not like the greatest phenomenon that's ever walked the face of the earth. So, yeah. So anyway, let's break down these schedules. So let's go with the Chargers schedule. I'll try not to go too long on this, just because I want to get to the NBA, and then I want to get to USC, and then I also want to give another quick shout out to an NCAA tournament team that is having a deep playoff run from Southern California. So anyway, so let's start with the Chargers Week 1 game against the Washington football team. It's going to be at Washington. That right there is a pick'em game, considering Washington has drastically improved. Sure, their quarterback situation is a little iffy, but they have Ryan frickin' Fitzmagic, and he did wonders for the Miami Dolphins, so we'll see what he could do for the football team. This matchup right here is a pick'em game, and I think the Chargers will win. I have the Chargers winning this game. It's going to be close, though, considering it's going to be Washington's defense versus the Chargers' high-powered offense with Justin Herbert. And then also Chase Young is going to be trying to get to Justin Herbert. But Chase Young is going to have to deal with the Chargers' first-round pick, which I'm already blanking on his name. Gosh dang it. How am I blanking on his Rashawn Slater. That's his name. Yeah, I was blanking on it for a little bit, but Rashawn Slater out of Northwestern. I gotta get more into. I gotta get back into the NHL swing of things, just because it's gonna be football season soon, so I should know his name by now. So, anyway, Rashawn Slater and the improved Chargers offensive line will be taking on and doing their best to subdue Vontez Sweat and Chase Young and the rest of the Washington football team defense. But I have the Chargers winning. It wouldn't be shocking if it was decided in close fashion. So I have the Chargers winning that game. And then in week 2, the Chargers have their home opener against the Dallas Cowboys. So my thing is for the Cowboys is the Cowboys are an interesting team. They're kind of a semi-balanced team. I think the Chargers will beat them, though, just because the thing that the Cowboys kind of lack in is their defense. I know they hired Dan Quinn, but I don't see how that's kind of an improvement. Like, what's going to happen? The Cowboys are going to find ways to blow 28-3 leads again? I'm not sold on the Cowboys just yet. And Dak just came back from a horrific ankle injury, so I got the Chargers winning. I still think it'll be close, but I think the Chargers will have somewhat of a better time against the Cowboys. So that's week 2. I have the Chargers 2-0 to start the season. Then it gets very tough. Kinda. So week 3, the Chargers take on the Kansas City Chiefs. So the Chiefs, to me, are, and this one's going to be at Kansas City or Arrowhead Stadium. I got the Chiefs winning this one. I hate to say this, but I think the Chiefs are, I don't think the Chiefs are going anywhere from now until the end of Mahomes' contract. So overall, I think the Chargers will be competitive, but I just have the Chiefs flat out winning this one. I know the Chargers beat the Chiefs last year at Arrowhead Stadium, but that was because the Chiefs rested practically all of their starters. So, nah. So I have the Chargers dropping week 3 to the Chiefs. Week 4 is interesting because it's a Monday Night Football game against the Las Vegas Raiders. It's going to be at SoFi Stadium. Me personally, I am a firm believer that the Chargers can win this one. But the Raiders are kind of fickle. Like, they're revamping their offensive line, and they're getting new offensive pieces for Derek Carr and the rest of the gang. Like, they just signed Kenyon Drake, who is a great running back. He'll be a great running back duo with Josh Jacobs. And honestly, I think it's going to be a tricky matchup, but I have the Chargers barely inching out a victory over the Raiders. Like, the only way the Raiders don't make this one close is if they forget how to play football and whatnot. So there's week 4. I have the Chargers 3-1 after week 4. Week 5, the Chargers return, or they still stay home against the Cleveland Browns. I have the Browns surprisingly winning this game. I should say surprising because it should not be a surprise if the Browns win, but the Browns have such a semi-balanced team. Their defense is incredible. Their offense is just as good. And other than Cody Parkey being their kicker, they're pretty much great for the most part. Like, I think this Browns team has a lot going on for them. And I think with Odell Beckham Jr. back, it's going to be tough. And also, the Browns have a great running back duo in Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. And then Baker Mayfield continues to grow as a quarterback. So I got the Chargers realistically losing to the Browns. I can't believe I'm saying things like that, considering whenever you lose to the Browns, it's embarrassing. But now when you lose to the Browns, it's kind of expected. But I still expect the Chargers to keep it close somewhat. I just think they're going to have a tough time cracking that defense and solving the equation that is Baker Mayfield and the Browns' offense. I gotta give credit to Kevin Stefanski. He's done a great job with that team. So anyway, Week 6, the Chargers play at Baltimore. This is another tricky matchup where I think the Chargers can win, but realistically, and in Chargers fashion, it wouldn't be shocking if they lost. Especially since Baltimore has a great team. They have great players such as... It all starts with Lamar Jackson. And although their defense took a hit when Yannick Ngakoue and Matthew Judon left for free agency, I still think the Ravens are not skipping a beat. So I have the Chargers barely losing this one. It wouldn't shock me if the Chargers lost by a walk-off field goal by Justin Tucker or maybe a game-winning drive from Lamar Jackson. But I just think that Lamar Jackson and the Ravens are just going to have a little too much firepower. I think they're just going to have it's going to be a little too much. And also, it's going to be a little bit of a revenge game for the Ravens because the last time the Ravens and the Chargers met, the Ravens lost to the Chargers in Baltimore, which that was probably the most disappointing loss. It wasn't disappointing. Like, the Ravens were getting outplayed for the most part, and the Chargers weren't like going for the kill. They were just going for field goals. And luckily, the Chargers defense, which had like Derwin James and Joey Bosa, well, both those players are still on the team now, but they also had other players like, I want to say they had Rayshon Jenkins that year, and then they also had a few other players. I forget the guy's name from USC, and I shouldn't be blanking on his name, but regardless, the Chargers defense was legit that year, and they finally cracked the code to solving Lamar Jackson after losing the first time. So I expect Lamar Jackson to have a lot of fire in his belly saying, these guys ended our season a couple of years ago. Well, 3 years ago, actually, so there's that. So I have the Chargers 3-3 after Week 6. It's kind of weird. I mean, realistically, the Chargers could go 4-2. I could see them beating the Ravens, but this is a tough start to the schedule for the Chargers. And then after Week 6, they have a bye, so you have to factor that in. That's a very early bye. And then Week 8, the Chargers are back home against the Patriots. Now, I'm a firm believer in a team being refreshed after a bye week, but against the Patriots, I don't think it's going to work out for the Chargers. The Chargers always struggle with the Patriots. You saw last year, even with Cam Newton and even with a defense that had lost some of its players due to opting out and injuries and whatnot, the Chargers just had no answer for the Patriots, which is pretty disappointing if you ask me. But I have the Chargers losing to the Patriots. It's not going to be 45-0, that's for sure. But I just think that the Chargers are just going to find they're going to probably lose in Chargers fashion, whether it's by a field goal or a late interception or something stupid. It's not that I like realistically they could beat the Patriots, whether the Patriots are starting Cam Newton or Mac Jones or Jarrett Stidham, but honestly, I just don't see how they beat the Patriots. Like, it's been a while since the Chargers last beat the Patriots. I think their last win against the Patriots was like in 2005. Might have been in the Drew Brees era. So, yeah. Oh, no. Actually, no. The Chargers' last win over the Patriots was in, I think, 2009 when Tom Brady tore his ACL and was out for the year. And they had to start Matt Castle, which that just goes to show you how long it's been since the Chargers last beat the Patriots. It took the Chargers having to play the Patriots backup to beating them. So there's that. So that's Week 8. Week 9, the Chargers hit the road to the city of brotherly love and face the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I could see the Chargers winning that one for sure. It's not that I don't think Nick Sirianni is a good coach, but I don't think he's on the level of the other AFC East, or not AFC, NFC East coaches such as Ron Rivera or Mike McCarthy. I won't judge Joe Judge all that much, but, you know. But honestly, he's only like in his second or third year, so I can't judge him too much. So overall, I think the Chargers can beat the Eagles. The Eagles are still trying to find their identity. They're not even sure if they're going to be starting Jalen Hurts. They're thinking of throwing Nick Sudfeld in the fray, which really boggles my mind. Like, you really got to go with your best option in Jalen Hurts. So I think the Chargers get the win. I think they finally bounce back after having such a brutal, tough start to the schedule. Because that's a really tough start, especially with the bye week just smack dab in there randomly. So that's that for the Week 9 game for the Chargers. Week 10, the Chargers return home to face the Minnesota Vikings. Now, the Vikings are also an interesting team. They're also trying to find their identity on defense, but they have a lot of great options. Kirk Cousins, offensively, is a great, well, not a great quarterback, but he's a good quarterback. Like, he's decent. Like, he still has to have that narrative of playing teams 500 versus playing teams under 500 and whatnot. But I think the one thing that's going to factor in is how good can Mike Zimmer coach the Vikings. And the Chargers seem to struggle every time they face Mike Zimmer and the Vikings. And it was that way, especially with Phillip Rivers. Well, until last year when Rivers left for the Colts, and he finally got that win over the Vikings, which was the first time Phillip Rivers had ever defeated any Mike Zimmer coach team. So regardless, I think the Chargers take down the Vikings. It'll be a lot closer. I think that's going to be the key factor is maybe shutting down Justin Jefferson, because Justin Jefferson and Justin Herbert are going to be facing one another, and depending on how the Chargers counteract in terms of Justin Jefferson depends on if they can limit him and his receptions and whatnot. Like, I can see them putting Asante Jr. on him, but it all depends. Maybe they'll put Chris Harris Jr. on him. We'll see. So there's that for week number 10. Week 11, the Chargers face Pittsburgh at SoFi Stadium. Now, Pittsburgh's a very interesting matchup, and I think this is a pick-up matchup. Like, the Steelers are a very fascinating team. Obviously, they still have Big Ben Roethlisberger, but they've added new key pieces. They've added Najee Harris at running back, and they still have some of these other no-name running backs. And they have good wide receivers such as Juju Smith-Schuster, Chase Claypool. The list goes on. And then Eric Ebron is a pretty good tight end. I think he's underrated despite him having the case of the dropsies. And the defense is pretty decent, and Mike Tomlin is a fantastic coach. Like, he has always guided the Steelers to a winning record. And honestly, it would surprise me if the Chargers lost, but I have them barely winning. It'll be close, though, considering the Steelers can sometimes play down to their competition, but at the same time, the Steelers know how big some of these games are, especially when it comes to the season reaching its climax. Like, to me, I think this one could be decided via field goal or one last game-winning drive, which it wouldn't be surprising if either of those happened, or if the Chargers won or lost via those things. Because 2 years ago, the Chargers had to win via a game-winning field goal, which turned out to be the most hilarious thing possible. So, overall, I think that one's going to be tricky, but I have the Chargers barely winning that one. So, there's that Week 11 win for the Chargers. Week 12, the Chargers play at Denver against the Broncos. So, the Broncos are still a work in progress. They're still trying to revamp their defense to being as good as they were back when they won Super Bowl 50. To me, I think the Chargers can win this one. I don't think they're going to blow a 21-point lead a second time at Denver. I'd be shocked if that happened, but lightning does not strike twice, and I don't see the Broncos pulling off that amazing feat. Like, also, it wasn't... Also, that 50-50 ball that Herbert got intercepted the second time also didn't help. Like, Mike Williams kind of has to come down with that, but it was just a little too high for Mike Williams and whatnot. So, I have the Chargers beating the Broncos in Week 12. In Week 13, the Chargers play the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals are also an interesting team, considering Joe Burrow last year got killed. Well, he didn't get killed, but he tore his ACL, and now he's back. Hopefully with a better O-line. I'm pretty sure they've got a better O-line because they drafted really well in the draft after the first round. They got a couple offensive linemen and whatnot, but the Bengals also got Jamar Chase, which is Joe Burrow's favorite receiver, or was his favorite receiver at LSU. So I imagine it's going to be a great reunion between those two. It wouldn't be surprising if the Bengals and Chargers went down to the wire, but I got the Chargers winning this one. I don't think the Chargers are going to have to go down to the wire, especially with Justin Herbert. So give me the Chargers to beat the Bengals in Week 13. And let's move on to Week 14. Week 14. I also should mention that the Steelers game is a Sunday Night Football game. So that's going to be Justin Herbert's first ever Sunday Night Football game, which is going to be fun. And I can't wait for that. I can't wait to hear what Chris Collinsworth and why am I blanking on all of these guys' names? Al Michaels, that's his name. Like, we need football back. That's what I gotta say. We need football back so I could start remembering everything off the top of my head. So anyway, Week 14, the Chargers play the New York Giants. There's no doubt in my mind the Chargers can win, but I get this strange feeling the Giants are going to make it closer than expected. I think the Giants have good options. Like, for sure they're going to be better with Saquon Barkley. And then obviously they're going to be better with some of their other wide receivers, and I think their defense has improved. I still kind of wonder if Daniel Jones can get the job done for the Giants, but I think the number one option is going to be containing Saquon Barkley, because that dude is a beast. And it really sucks what happened to him last year. So here's hoping we get a great game between the Chargers and the Giants and whatnot. So we say hello to Larry B as he pops in the chat room, says SoCal. Appreciate you popping in. So now we jump to Week 15 of the Chargers, and this is going to be a short week for the Chargers because they got a Thursday Night Football game against the Chiefs. Whew. Okay, so this game against the Chiefs, the second go-around. Believe it or not, I have the Chargers winning this one. Now, many of y'all are probably going to say, what the heck is this guy talking about? But I think the second go-around with the Chiefs is going to be quite the fascinating phenomenon, considering I think the Chargers will be ready for the Chiefs. If the Chargers don't win, I expect them to keep it close. If they lose by one score, then it wouldn't be surprising. But I think the second go-around goes to the Chargers. And I think that could be maybe the turning point of the season, because Herbert, everyone is lauding Justin Herbert versus Patrick Mahomes and whatnot, and if the Chargers can take that next big step. And honestly, I think they can. It's just all a matter of just not playing down to your competition and just playing. You got to play near perfect against the Chiefs if you want to win. And I honestly think they can. And I think the Chargers will be battle tested. I think those first 6 weeks are going to pay dividends to the Chargers. And then once they get all their momentum going, then I think they're going to turn it around against the Chiefs. Like, I have the Chargers going 3-4 to start the first 8 weeks. And then I think the Patriots loss could be their wake-up call to the point where they'll possibly defeat the Chiefs. It's not guaranteed, and if anything, I would say that realistically, I would say this is a loss, but I got the Chargers winning in close fashion. Either they're going to win via game-winning field goal, they're going to lose via game-losing field goal or a missed field goal, or something out of the ordinary is going to happen with Patrick Mahomes via game-winning drive. So there's that in Week 15. Then Week 16, the Chargers face the Houston Texans. Whether Deshaun Watson's the quarterback or not, I got the Chargers beating the Texans. I don't think the Chargers will lose to them. And it would be really funny to see Teran Taylor starting for the Texans. I don't think that's going to happen, considering Watson is most likely going to be the quarterback unless he's dealt. And even if he's dealt, like, say, to the Raiders, then they'll probably get another starting quarterback, or the Broncos, where Drew Lock might be the starter. But regardless, it's most likely going to be Deshaun Watson and not likely Teran Taylor. So there's that. And then Week 17, I have the Chargers beating the Denver Broncos. Whether the Chargers win the first round against the Broncos or not, I got the Chargers winning. Just because I feel the Chargers are a step ahead of the Broncos. I think the Broncos' rebuilding process is going to take a little while. So overall, I think the Chargers can beat the Broncos. Unless, of course, Aaron Rodgers is their quarterback. But even so, I still think the Chargers can win the second round. But that's even if they lose the first time around. So there's that. And then Week 18, I still feel weird saying that. Week 18, the Chargers face the Las Vegas Raiders at Las Vegas. Now, this one's kind of a fascinating matchup. It's either the Chargers will have clinched postseason berth, and they won't need to play their starters against the Raiders, or the Chargers are going to be fighting for their playoff lives against the Raiders, and they're going to need to play everybody. Like, if the Chargers clinch the playoffs, a wild card, then I got the Chargers losing this game. If the Chargers need one more win, or they're playing for pride or whatnot, or trying to play spoiler to the Raiders, I got the Chargers realistically winning. Like, realistically, if the Chargers play their starters, they win. If the Chargers sit their starters because they've got a playoff spot locked up and they want to be cautious, I got the Chargers losing. So theoretically, I have the Chargers going 13-4 at best, if not 12-5. Now, at worst, I have the Chargers going 9-8. And my guaranteed losses for the Chargers are the Chiefs in Week 3, the Browns, the Ravens, and the Patriots. And then Week 18 against the Raiders, if need be. So, there's that. So, Larry B says, nicely said for that week. Thanks, Larry. I appreciate that. So now I said the Chargers could go at worst 9-8, and that for sure won't get them into the postseason. You look at the AFC as a whole. The AFC has drastically improved. You look at the Dolphins that went 11. I think they went 11-5, and they missed the postseason. That did not get them into the postseason. The Colts were barely able to get into the postseason. The Raiders at 8-8 didn't even get into the postseason, and sometimes that gets you into the postseason. Hence the word sometimes. But I digress. But I will say this. The Chargers will need as many wins as they can get. Because, like I said, the AFC as a whole is super competitive. And with every team making vast improvements to possibly get better to get that one of 3 wildcard spots, it's going to be tough. And I could already rule out the Chargers winning the AFC West. Unless something, heaven forbid, not so great happens with the Chiefs, then I realistically don't see the Chargers winning the AFC West, but I do see them getting a wildcard spot. That's for sure. I mean, they could challenge the Chiefs, but they'll probably be one loss behind them. I could see the Chargers going 12-5. That's my official projected record. At best, like I said, they can go 13-4. At worst, the Chargers can go 9-8. And my outlook for the Chargers season is either the Chargers are going to be vastly improved and they're going to click under Brandon Staley's system, or they're still going to be rebuilding, but they're still going to be competitive, and they're going to improve on their 7-9 record from last year. Like like the Chargers, to me, if I could describe the Chargers in 3 words, it's boom or bust. They'll either be really good and then they're going to turn heads, or they're going to be and then they're just going to barely miss out on the postseason. So that's just my little outlook and take on that. So there's that for the Chargers. Let's jump over to the Rams. I'm no Rams expert, but I could try to project their season. So the Rams' schedule. So starting week 1, we'll go with the Chicago Bears. Now, I don't know. Now, that's going to be quite the fascinating test between Justin Fields, but it is going to be at SoFi Stadium, and I can imagine that place is going to be rocking. So I got the Rams winning in week 1 against the Bears. Week 2 against the Colts. That is another interesting matchup. That's at Indianapolis. It's tough to determine that because the Colts are pretty good. But I don't know what to expect from Carson Wentz. So Larry says the Chargers are one of the biggest ace cards in the NFL. They could be one or royalty. That is the perfect analogy right there. And Larry, I'm going to give you the applause button. Like, that is the best analogy to describe them. They could be one or royalty. Like, on a scale of 1 through 10, they could either be 1 or 11. Because aces can count for 1 or 11 in casinos. Gamble responsibly, by the way. So, anyway, back to the Rams' schedule. I don't know what to expect from this Colts matchup. Like, I'm going to say the Rams lose this one. I think for some reason they lose. I feel they'll get tripped up on the road, and for some odd reason they somehow lose to the Colts in like maybe close fashion. I don't know if Carson Wentz will go Superman mode or if he'll go Clark Kent mode, but regardless, I think the Rams fall just a bit short. Then we jump to week 3. It is a home game at SoFi against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That is a very interesting matchup, considering Tampa returns all of its starters, surprisingly. They return all 22 starters, and I'm not over-exaggerating this. They are returning all their starters. As we learned from last year, that when the Bucs played the Rams on Monday Night Football, the Rams actually came to play. And the thing about the Rams is they're a fickle team. Like, sometimes they're going to not be... people are going to say, oh, the Rams aren't going to beat this team, and then poof, they beat that team. And then sometimes everyone's going to say, oh, the Rams will crush this team, and then the Rams somehow lose. Hence the Jets versus the Rams last year. So overall, I'm going to say the Rams beat the Bucs. I think this is going to be one of those blips on the radars for the Bucs. And I think this is going to show that not everyone is invincible and whatnot. And I think this is going to be that. I think the Colts loss is going to be the Rams' wake-up call to say, you know what, we got to do better if we want to make a deep playoff run. So I think the Rams win in week 3. Larry says the Rams, on the other hand, they're very hard to try and pick their season. I agree. And it's tough to predict, considering sometimes they trade their draft picks in for something else. Especially when the Rams, God. It's tough because I'm not a Rams fan. I mean, I like the Rams, but not as much as the Chargers. But the Rams have Matt Stafford as their quarterback, and personally, I think it's gonna take him a little while to get under the system of of Sean McVay, but I think Matt Stafford facing the Bears in the past is going to be helpful. So, and then I think that Colts loss, like I said, is going to be their wake-up call. So I got the Rams winning in Week 3. Week 4 against the Cardinals. That is also another fascinating matchup. I'm just going to say this about the NFC West. It's wide open this year. I think any team can win the NFC West. And it's so tough to determine that. So I got the Rams beating the Cardinals in Week 4. In Week 5, when the Rams play the Seattle Seahawks on Thursday Night Football, I have the Seahawks winning that one. It's going to be probably a close loss, but I think the Seahawks just inch away with that victory. Knowing my luck, I think almost said it again, the Seahawks are going to squeak away with the victory. It's obviously going to be a big-time matchup, and I think the Seahawks, who have a lot of experience playing on Thursday Night Football for the most part, know what to expect. And I think that Cardinals game is going to be the biggest short week of the season for the Rams. So I got the Seahawks beating the Rams in Week 5. In Week 6, the Rams travel to the Big Apple to face the New York Giants. I got the Rams winning that one. I have the Rams winning that one. There is no doubt in my mind. So there's that win. And then in Week 7, the Rams return home to face the Detroit Lions. Now that's going to be a fun matchup. And many people are going to say, well, why is the Lions versus Rams fun? It's Matt Stafford against his former team, and Jared Goff versus his former team. So I would not be surprised if that somehow got flexed to primetime. I doubt it will, but it could happen. But I got the Rams beating the Lions. It should be by a good amount unless Penei Sewell goes Super Saiyan 7 mode against the Rams' defense. But I got the Rams beating the Lions. And then in Week 8, I got the Rams defeating the Houston Texans at Houston. Again, whether Deshaun Watson's the quarterback or not, I got the Rams winning. I don't think the Texans are where they're supposed to be. They're in super limbo mode now, so it's going to take them a while for them to figure out this mess. So we'll see what happens, but I for sure got the Rams winning. I think that might be their biggest victory in terms of margin. And then in Week 9, I have the... This is a tough one. The Rams against the Titans. That one's a pick'em game right there. And it's a very tough pick'em game. I'd probably say the Rams beat the Titans. It's going to be at SoFi Stadium. If I had to pick, I'd probably say the Rams barely. But that all depends on what type of Ryan Tannehill we're getting, and what type of Derrick Henry we're getting, and what type of A.J. Brown we're getting, and whatnot. So I think that Rams-Titans game is a pick'em, depending on which team has the momentum. Like, if the Titans are reeling and the Rams are just streaking, then I would have the Rams winning. But if it were the other way around, I'd probably say vice versa. I'd probably say the Rams are most likely going to lose. So, but for now, I've got the Rams edging the Titans. Again, it would probably be in close fashion and whatnot. So through 9 weeks, I have the Rams at 7-2, which is kind of generous if you ask me. Then in Week 10 on Monday Night Football, the Rams face the 49ers. They go up to Northern California to face the 49ers. I actually have the 49ers winning that one, and it sounds crazy, I will say that, but I think the 49ers are going to be so much more improved. Injuries decimated them last year, and even when injuries did decimate them, the 49ers actually may do what it do. Whether it's Jimmy Garoppolo starting at quarterback or whether it's Trey Lance at starting quarterback, I think the 49ers will just pull it out. It might be a close one because maybe Robbie Gould pulls off a game-winning field goal, or maybe it's another game-winning drive from Jimmy Jesus and whatnot. But I think, for me, I think the 49ers will just barely pull that one off. And Larry says, too bad Justin couldn't be on this show. Yeah, Justin has moved to Irving, Texas, where he is a crime analyst, but he's doing his thing elsewhere, and who knows, maybe we'll have Justin on in the summer, and maybe we can get him on before the NFL starts, which would be fun times, so we'll see. Anyway, back to this. So, Week 11 is the Rams' bye week. That is probably the best the best time to have a bye week, as Week 12, the Rams travel to Green Bay to face the Packers. I have the Rams surprisingly losing this one. If Aaron Rodgers is still quarterback, the Rams are for sure losing. If Aaron Rodgers is not the quarterback, then I have this one being an interesting matchup, but I have the Rams losing. The Rams, I don't think will be able to. I don't think they'll be able to excel in Green Bay. I'm not saying they're not going to win because of the snow or the cold, but I just think that playing at Lambeau Field is kind of their haunted house of horrors and whatnot. So, there's that. And then in Week 13, the Rams play the Jacksonville Jaguars back at SoFi. I got the Rams winning that one, no doubt about it. Trevor Lawrence is good, but he's going to have to face an experienced player such as Aaron Donald and a very packed defense such as Jordan Fuller and whatnot. So, and also Jalen Ramsey. So, I got the Rams beating the Jaguars. I'm just kidding, not the Jaguars, the Jaguars. So, next up we have a Monday Night Football game in Week 14 between the Cardinals and the Rams. This one is going to be played in Arizona. I also have the Rams beating the Cardinals. For me, when it comes to the Rams versus the Cardinals, it seems like the Rams always have the Cardinals number. I don't know how or why, but it must be Sean McVay playing chess while Cliff Kingsbury is playing checkers. Maybe Chinese checkers. So, I think that the Rams will be able to take down the Cardinals. It might be close, though, because I think Kyler Murray is not going to shy away from that spotlight, and I think the Cardinals to me are also boom or bust. Like, sometimes, like, on paper they look legit, but if they have to face those big-time opponents, then it could get ugly. So, there's that. And then, in Week 15, the Rams play the Seattle Seahawks at SoFi Stadium. Again, this is another one of those tough matches to predict. I'm going to say the Rams lose this one. I think the Rams realistically can win. However, the Seahawks always present a challenge to the Rams. It's like that one is if there's one, or if there's two words to describe the Rams versus Seahawks, it's pick'em. You can't predict that matchup because you never know which Rams team or which Seahawks team you're going to get. Like sometimes you're going to get the Seahawks team that lays a goose egg and that gives Russell Wilson no protection. And then sometimes you're going to get the Rams team that just gets bulldozed by Russell Wilson and the rest of the Seahawks' offense. So I'm going to say the Rams lose to the Seahawks. I'm not saying this because I think the Seahawks are better, but I just think that the Seahawks are kind of a complete team. They're not the greatest team. Like, their defense is somewhat leaky, and then their offensive line is somewhat leaky, but they are well coached, and they have great offensive pieces, starting with Russell Wilson. So there's that. And then in Week 16, we have the Rams traveling to Minnesota to take on the Vikings. I have the Rams winning that one. unlike the Chargers, the Rams hardly ever struggle with Mike Zimmer coach teams. I don't know how, I don't know why, but I think McVay is going to have a better game plan for Kirk Cousins and the rest of the Vikings. I feel that now that the season is coming to a climax, or the regular season's coming to a climax, the Vikings and Rams could basically be duking it out for what could be one of 3 wildcard spots. So then we jump to week number 17. The Rams travel to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. This one's also another pick-em matchup. Like, it really is tough to pick between the Ravens and the Rams. I have the Ravens winning this one. It's strange, but honestly, the Ravens will probably squeak one out. And what kind of helps them is that the Ravens play in a tough division with the Browns and the Steelers, and even the Bengals are tough. And then also the Ravens are playing the AFC West this year, which realistically, I think no team, there are a lot of sleeper teams in that division outside of the Chiefs, which isn't really a sleeper team for starters. But I think the Ravens squeak one out against the Rams. It'll be close, though. Again, that's another pick-em matchup, but I can imagine that's going to be a fairly balanced scoring matchup. So there's that. And then week 18 against the 49ers. Hold on. I just got to recount my losses real quick. So far I have the Rams surprisingly at 10-6 going into the final matchup against the 49ers. Now again, it's really tough to predict what the Rams will do just because sometimes they have you're going to get like a different Rams team from time to time. You're going to sometimes get the Rams team that somehow loses in embarrassing fashion. Then you sometimes get the Rams team that wins in impressive fashion. Now, the 49ers matchup, this could possibly be flexed to Sunday Night Football. And we don't know that because the last week of the season basically boils down to depending on who is where in what division. Like, to me, I think the Rams win this one. Now, I know the Rams always struggle with Jimmy Garoppolo, but I think they erase that narrative. And whatnot. And I think that the Rams, knowing what's at stake, which could be a possible playoff spot or the NFC West title, I think the Rams come up big and they rise to the occasion. Whether it's Aaron Donald on defense, or Robert Woods, or Cooper Kupp, or Cam Akers, or Matt Stafford, or whoever, I think the Rams are just going to step up as a whole. And I think this is going to be, depending on how the 49ers are, whether it's playing for pride, playing for a playoff spot, playing for the division, playing for the entire conference, it's going to be quite the fickle matchup right there. Like, you never know what 49ers team you're going to get, but I think the 49ers are pretty much one of the most complete teams in maybe the NFC West. When healthy, obviously. But I got the Rams barely squeaking one out against the 49ers. If anything, it'd probably be not Greg Zuerlein. He's on the Cowboys. I think it's probably going to be a game-winning field goal for the Rams, or maybe one last game-winning drive. Because Matt Stafford has had a few game-winning drives in the past. So there's that right there for the Rams. I have them going 12-5. Again, I'm no Rams expert, but it's tough to really predict their schedule. Like, I for sure could see them finishing above 500. Let's get that out of the way. The Rams will finish over 500 no matter what happens. Whether they're 9-8, I have them finishing above 500. Do I see playoffs in their future? Absolutely. No one should be underestimating the Rams, even though they've had to trade some pieces and whatnot. I think Matthew Stafford entering his early 30s will be beneficial, and I think a change of scenery is what Matt Stafford needs. Now, do I think the Rams can make it to the Super Bowl? That still remains to be seen, considering you look at the NFC as a whole. You have the Buccaneers, which I think that's basically where the NFC goes through, or how the NFC goes through. Then you have the entire NFC West with the 49ers, the Cardinals, and the Seahawks. Mainly with the Seahawks and the 49ers, since unfortunately for the Cardinals, they haven't really found that postseason success in recent years. Then you have other good teams in the NFC, like maybe the Packers if Aaron Rodgers stays, and then the Bears could be improved and whatnot. It really is tough to predict the NFC as a whole, because the NFC is kind of like a merry-go-round, and then the NFC East is kind of up for grabs. I feel the Cowboys can win that division, and then I got the Bucs winning the NFC South, and then the NFC North, I have the Packers winning if Aaron Rodgers stays. I'm 100% certain the Packers will win the NFC North if Aaron Rodgers stays. If he goes, then that division's up for grabs between the Vikings and maybe the Bears. Well, obviously the Bears. Obviously, maybe the Bears as well, considering there's only 3 other teams in that division. But I digress on that, and I think it's going to be a fun season for the Rams. It wouldn't even shock me if all 4 teams from the NFC West went to the postseason. If every team was beating each other up, say the Rams and the Seahawks, or the Rams lost to the Seahawks but beat the 49ers and vice versa, it wouldn't be shocking to see the Seahawks, 49ers, and Rams in the postseason. I just think the NFC West is probably the NFC best, if you ask me. I know it's early saying such things, but that's my prediction. So, at best, my projected record for the Rams is 12-5. I think it's 12-5. At best, it'd maybe be 13-4, if not 12-5. At worst for the Rams, I have them going maybe 10-7. It's still gonna take a while for me to get used to saying 10-7 instead of 10-6. Regardless, though, that's my prediction. So that's that for the NFL. I really am excited for this NFL season. They're saying that it's going to be a big season and that this is going to be the biggest season ever, and I don't blame them. So before we jump to a commercial break, I definitely want to give a shout out to USC and its women's water polo team, as they just recently won the NCAA Women's Water Polo Championship, defeating its rival UCLA by, get this everybody, get this. USC defeated UCLA by a score of 18-9. That's right, y'all. USC defeated UCLA 18-9 in the championship game. That is surprisingly the biggest margin of victory in any NCAA Women's Water Polo Championship, which I was really surprised at that. And believe it or not, that is actually, the 18 goals are the most goals scored in an NCAA Women's Water Polo Championship. The previous record was 10, and surprisingly, USC had that record by halftime, which is absolutely hilarious. And I know USC always is a dominant team. They actually only lost one match all year, and that was to UCLA, which was a 13-6 loss. I don't know how they lost that one, but I think that was the last game of the regular season, and that game actually wound up being the turning point, because as I've been saying in other sports, that it's okay to suffer one loss. I think it's more difficult to go undefeated and win a championship in one season. Whereas if you lose once, you get that one loss out of the way, and then poof, you basically no longer have the stress of going undefeated. And and I can use plenty of examples of teams trying to go undefeated and winning a championship. You look at Wisconsin women's volleyball. You look at Gonzaga men's basketball. You look at all these high school teams that go undefeated and whatnot and try to win a championship. It's tough. It's tough mentally, and it's a lot of pressure because sometimes you have all those fans jeering and hoping that you lose because you're the heavy favorite to win it all. So that's just my little take. But congratulations to and Larry says the famous 18-0 season for the Patriots. There, yep, that too. Yep, that too. So, congratulations to USC women's water polo on their NCAA championship victory over their rival UCLA. Funny thing is that it was the exact opposite. Like, USC in men's water polo lost to UCLA, which was pretty heartbreaking, but it was low scoring. So, it was low scoring and it was close and whatnot. So, there's that. But that's not all of the NCAA championships I got to go over for USC. USC's beach volleyball team won the NCAA championship a couple weeks ago. And the team that they defeated in the national championship match was none other than UCLA, as they beat them 3-1. I don't know if anyone knows the true rules of beach volleyball by heart when it comes to like the NCAA scene, but Basically, 5 matches occur, and if you win 3 out of those 5 matches, you win the entire dual meet. And the matches are basically called matches. The whole thing is called a duel, D-U-A-L, not duel as in Yu-Gi-Oh. I'm getting off topic here, but regardless, USC's beach volleyball team beat UCLA. I actually saw the entire thing. I think this was like the first ever like beach volleyball program I've watched on TV, and I was just really hoping that USC would pull it out. Not to not to like bash UCLA or anything, but I did know one of the players, Haley Harward. Haley Harward. God, why is that rolling off the tip of my tongue? She played for Long Beach State and then transferred to USC as a grad student because she's planning to play pro volleyball, and she finally won that championship, and it was really awesome to see her clinch that championship. She and her partner did really well in the championship game, and it was fun. And it was also fun seeing USC win off of a service ace, which eventually the final pair that was playing for USC ran all the way over from the far court over to the winning court, and it was pretty fun. So, and then afterward, USC took the annual and obvious dip into the ocean in Gulf Shores, Alabama, and that was that. USC fans were happy, and unfortunately UCLA fans were pretty miffed. And Larry says, UCLA, official property of the USC Sports Department. The official property of the USC Sports Department. Oh my God. Can't be saying those things. That's too funny, Larry. Oh gosh, that's pretty funny. That was a good one though, Larry. That was absolutely amazing. That joke right there, and I only wish they had won in men's water polo. That would have been even more funny. So, but I gotta give the Kawhi Leonard laugh on that one. So. I gotta give my boy Larry the Kawhi Leonard laugh. Matter of fact, we go give Larry 2 Kawhi Leonard laughs. And Larry says, fight on. And yep, I agree with you, Larry. And matter of fact, we're not gonna go on a little break. That's gonna be that for USC. I just wanted to give their shout out to them. Let's just jump to the NBA because I've got a good little momentum going. So the Lakers won their play-in game. Unfortunately, the Lakers had to play in the darn play-in game, but they managed to get the W over the Golden State Warriors, or should I call them the Golden State Warriors, because they didn't have the W. So anyway, the Lakers pulled off a close 103-100 game. I saw most of the game, and I saw that amazing clutch shot from LeBron, and that was quite astounding that he was able to pull off that amazing shot. That was a great little fadeaway. And Larry says at least we won. Yep. It's kind of all that matters, because as one of my friends who's a coach once said, at the end of the day, that's kind of all that matters. It doesn't matter if you win ugly or if you win pretty. The fact that you got the dub is what truly matters. So the Lakers advance to the NBA postseason, where they will face the Phoenix Suns. Now, the Phoenix Suns are a very fascinating matchup. The Phoenix Suns are making their first postseason appearance since, I think, 2010. It's been a while since the Suns last made the postseason. And I think their last playoff matchup was against the Los Angeles Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. So now the two teams are meeting in the first round, and this is kind of a fascinating matchup. Like, the Suns have a mixture of experience and youth. I think the Suns lack playoff experience, but they have Chris Paul, but I don't think he fills the void in terms of full playoff experience. So I think, to me, the Lakers definitely, when healthy for the most part, can definitely take down the Suns. The Lakers have been battling health issues with LeBron being out and Anthony Davis being out, but they're as healthy can be. Even Jared Dudley is healthy, which is cool. No one wants to hear about... Larry says the Suns make the playoffs for the first time since 1910. Sounds about right. Yeah, it's been way too long since 2000. It's been way too long since the Suns last made the postseason. It's kind of been a struggle for them making the postseason, but they're back in it. To me, I think the Lakers match up pretty decently against the Suns. Like, the interesting thing is that the Lakers have not had both AD and LeBron against the Phoenix Suns. Either they faced one, or they faced the other, or they faced neither. So I think with both AD and LeBron being on the court against the Suns, that could prove to be matchup problems for the Suns, but the Suns can look at that on film and say, this is what we got to do. So we'll see. I think the Lakers can take this series, and the reason being is because they have LeBron. Okay, fine. I'll be more indirect. I think the Suns, just the lack of playoff experience is going to hurt the Suns. Obviously, with Chris Paul being there and their head coach being at the helm helps them out. But I think when facing a team with LeBron and a team that's starting to like pick up steam and peak is really going to be scary, because the Lakers have been on somewhat of a tear. I think they've won like 7 in a row, I want to say. It's either 6 or 7, honestly. I lost track of how many games they've won. They've won 6 in a row. So they ended the season on a 5-game winning streak, which unfortunately didn't get them into the postseason because they lost the tiebreaker to both Dallas and Portland. But who knows? Maybe this whole play-in game will be the turning point, because to me, I think this is going to be the toughest road for the Lakers, but the tougher the road, the sweeter the reward. That's my little take. And I think it's tough to make a case for the Lakers because they haven't played healthy most of the season. And remember, they got they and the Miami Heat got the least amount of rest when it came to the offseason because they only got 2 months of rest, and then the NBA started back up in December, and then they said, hey, Lakers, Heat, back to work. And it really sucks because they didn't get a full offseason, unlike some of these other teams like the Clippers and the Bucks and everyone else that got a chance to have more than 2 months rest and to like rehab and whatnot. So overall, I think the Lakers are going to have a pretty fun playoff run. Like, if they get past the Suns, then that's going to be a huge momentum booster going forward. I have the Lakers winning that series in 6. I know everyone's probably going to get tired of me saying Lakers in 6, Lakers in 6, Lakers in 6, but I think that's the safe bet until they have to go 7, which heaven forbid that happens. But I think that's the safe bet of going Lakers in 6. Just because their playoff experience and with Frank Vogel having a good feel for the Lakers and how they performed in the playoffs last year, I think this Lakers team is primed for another postseason run. And again, here for those that don't remember this fact, Frank Vogel in his first year with the Lakers in the postseason has won more playoff series than Doc Rivers did with the Clippers at his helm, which I think that lasted more than like 10 years, or maybe 10 years, 9 or 10 years. Regardless, that was quite the interesting stat. Like, Frank Vogel had more series wins with the Lakers in that one season from last year than Doc Rivers had in terms of playoff series wins with the Clippers in his full tenure. So that's kind of your Snapple fun fact of the day. But Rivers is no longer with the Clippers, so that's kind of irrelevant. Regardless, I think the Lakers should have a good playoff run. And here's hoping they can get out of the first round. Like, that first round matchup could go either way with the Suns and the Lakers. Now let's jump over to the Clippers and their first round matchup. So the Clippers finished 4th in the Western Conference. And the funny thing is that they lost to the 2 worst teams in the West, the Houston Rockets and the Oklahoma City Thunder, and now they're the number 4 seed taking on the Dallas Mavericks. Which is funny because everyone and their mothers bashed the Clippers, saying the Clippers are trying to avoid the Lakers in the second round. Because had the Clippers won against the Oklahoma City Thunder, they would have been the number 3 seed, and if they had gotten out of the first round, they would have faced the Lakers if they got out of the first round. I think being the number 4 seed is the worst thing for the Clippers, because now they're on the path of the Utah Jazz, which is probably the best team in or the most improved team in the NBA, and the most dangerous team in the Western Conference, outside of the Lakers fully healthy. But I will say this about the Clippers. They're facing the Dallas Mavericks in round 1. That is going to be a very dramatic and fun matchup, considering last year these two teams met in the first round and the Clippers won in 6. So my thing is, does the same Clippers team step up and rise to the occasion in the first round? It's tough to tell because the Clippers have been fickle all year. And then the Dallas Mavericks are going to want revenge on last year because, honestly, I think there was like 1 or 2 games that the Mavs probably could have won against the Clippers. And then obviously losing Kristaps Porzingis really hurt them as well. So my overall thing is that this one, don't be surprised if Clippers Mavericks go 7 games. It's tough for me to pick between the Mavericks and the Clippers, and it's just, it could go either way. I think, to me, I got the Clippers winning in 7, but the Clippers are really going to have to work for this series. Like, they can't just coast through the first few rounds. I know we're going to probably get playoff P and how he'll somehow step up, but he's got to be playoff P throughout the entire postseason. He can't just be playoff P through the first few games and then have everyone say, oh my god, Paul George is looking like playoff P. There's no playoff anything except for playoff Rondo, which surprisingly the Clippers have. But I don't even think he can go full playoff mode because he's playing with a whole different system. It's not like, and then he's playing under Ty Lue, which if you compare Ty Lue and Frank Vogel, it's kind of comparing apples to oranges. I know Ty Lue has the championship experience, but he had LeBron, so I'm just saying. So overall, I think the Clippers win their series against the Mavericks in 7, but it wouldn't shock me if the Clippers lost in the first round. It would be quite funny if the Clippers lost in the first round. And by the way, Larry mentioned my brother Justin. He's actually rooting for the Mavericks in this series, considering he lives in Texas, and he may, hence the word may, go to a Mavericks game. But I think tickets are going to be expensive. But my brother is rooting for the Mavericks. But if the Mavericks somehow face the Lakers, you already know he's rooting for that purple and gold in the Lakers. So there's that right there for the Clippers-Mavericks series. But I got the Clippers in 7 over the Mavericks. If the Clippers get out of the first round, they'll have the honor of facing the Utah Jazz or the winner of the Grizzlies-Warriors series. I can see the Warriors winning. I know Golden State is not Southern California. I know Memphis is not California in general, but I just got to go over that right now just because it's NBA, and I think it's going to be a fun little Western Conference this season, because I think the West is up for grabs. Like, even surprisingly, the Clippers can win the West. And I don't think anyone was thinking that. I think everyone was thinking that the Clippers can be a sleeper team, but I still want to see if they can actually make it out of the second round. Like, to me, I kind of describe the Clippers as Peyton Manning minus the Super Bowl, or something like that. Or Phillip Rivers. That's just my little take. But to me, I think it's going to be quite the fascinating MLS, or not MLS, NBA playoffs. And there's that. And now that I'm talking about and squawking about MLS, I might as well just jump to the MLS and talk about the Galaxy and LAFC. So shockingly enough, the Galaxy, I can't believe I'm about to usher these words. The Galaxy are in second place in the Western Conference. They are 4-1, as they have 4 wins and 0 losses. They only trail Seattle, which handed them their only loss this season. I'm quite impressed with how they've been performing, as the Galaxy play the Portland Timbers this week. Last Saturday, or not last Saturday, the Saturday before, May 8th, the Galaxy defeated LAFC 2-1 in El Tráfico, and I actually called that score correctly. So I'm not trying to be the I called it guy, and I'm certainly no soccer expert, but I will also say this. I'm very surprised I called that score correctly. Like, 2-1 is kind of the safe score, in my opinion. So, so if you want more soccer expertise and a full breakdown of soccer, definitely check out the Soccer Scoreboard Show with Andrew Hagenbaugh every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So definitely do check out Andrew Hagenbaugh. He does a great job with soccer. He does a better job than me, that's for sure. So, but the Galaxy played the Portland Timbers this Saturday. That's actually going to be on ABC. The Timbers are actually number 9 in the West, so that's kind of something to look forward to. And yeah, I can't wait to see that matchup, possibly, because I'm probably going to be busy with my super busy schedule and whatnot. So, as for LAFC, LAFC looks atrocious. They are dead last in the Western Conference, which is quite funny. Their first win of the season was against an expansion team in Austin FC. So, LAFC, ever since that win against Austin, LAFC has not been the same team. As even though LAFC did tie with Seattle in the second game of the season, they still haven't been the same team, because LAFC tied with Houston 1-1 on Saturday, May 8th. And then obviously LAFC lost to the Galaxy, and then they lost to Seattle 2-0. They gave Seattle all that they could handle through the first 60 or so minutes, and then Seattle just said, let's start actually playing soccer. It was, as I was chatting with Andrew Hagenbaum when he did his show, Soccer Scoreboard Show, last Sunday. I always said the only irony is if LAFC somehow pulls off the win against Seattle, which they did not. So, too bad for LAFC, but life goes on. So, anyway, LAFC this week has a game against Colorado at Colorado on Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time. So, me personally, if LAFC wants to actually do well in the Western Conference, they actually need to start playing good soccer. And believe it or not, Colorado is number 4 in the Western Conference. So I know it's early. I know people are going to say, oh, it's too early for you to judge the LAFC. Well, you don't want those losses to pile up. And here's the thing about LAFC. It kind of gets tougher for them because their next week's matchup is against NYC FC, which is number 3 in the Eastern Conference. So the best, or should I say worst, is yet to come. And then Houston, looking at them in the table, is number 6 in the Western Conference. Dallas is second to last, so it kind of lightens up there. And then Sporting KC is the last game of June. So there's that for LAFC. Like, some of their games are going to start to pick up. So if they want to be successful, they got to start actually showing up. Otherwise, this could be disastrous for them. So there's that for LAFC. And I'm also going to spit this a little Snapple fun fact for everybody. The LA Galaxy only had 22 points last year. Currently, at the moment, the Galaxy have, from what I heard, they have 12 points. Yes, they have 12 points. So the Galaxy is almost halfway to surpassing its point total from last year, which is quite the turnaround. And I'm quite impressed. I know it's early on, but I'm really happy for the LA Galaxy, just because the LA Galaxy is too good of a team to, be mediocre. And I hope they can continue this into the postseason, because the postseason to me is better with them than without them. That's just what I think. But if there's still a long season and I feel anything could happen, I just hope LA Galaxy can just keep up their great work. They have Portland they have Portland this week, they have San Jose next week, and then looking at their June games, they're at Seattle on Saturday, which that could be a primetime game. I use that term primetime like it's a big deal, but I don't know. Could be on ABC. And then they have Vancouver, and then they have San Jose, so there's that right there for the Galaxy. Again, it's too early to tell, but this Galaxy team is looking very promising, so there's that. Alright, so let's jump over to a little MLB action. Before I jump over to the MLB, I want to give a shout out to Pepperdine's women's tennis team, which is in the Final Four of the NCAA Women's Tennis Tournament, as the Waves will be playing University of North Carolina in about 5 minutes, which will be 2:30 p.m. Pacific time, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time, and I think it's going to be a good little matchup. Like, I really wanted to see Pepperdine win a championship. I want to say Pepperdine knocked off UCLA in the round of 16. It was either the round of 16 or the round of 8. Regardless, that's quite the amazing victory for the Waves, and I am all for seeing Pepperdine women's tennis winning an NCAA championship. This is the team championship, not the individuals championship. Like, the individual championship is tough to keep up with, but if I do hear news about that, you already know I'm going to be reporting on it. So, just got to give that quick little shout out of the way. Now we jump over to the MLB. So, the Dodgers, who had been injury riddled, are starting to get their groove back as they just swept the Arizona Diamondbacks in a 4-game series. The Dodgers are still 2 games back of the NL West leader San Francisco, and then they actually trailed the San Diego Padres by 1 game. And believe it or not, the Dodgers actually face the Giants tonight in a 3-game series, which is going to be a huge 3-game series. And they actually have a 4-game series against the Giants next week, starting next Thursday. So that's cool stuff as well. So overall, the next 9 games are going to be huge for the Dodgers, because after they face the Giants in the 3-game series, they have the Houston Astros on Tuesday and Wednesday, and that Wednesday game against the Astros is going to be on ESPN, so that's going to be quite fun right there. And we all know the whole Astros versus Dodgers narrative, so there's that. So this is a crucial time for the Dodgers. They have a lot of time. They have plenty of time to make up ground, but this would be a huge momentum booster for them going forward. Especially since they kind of recently lost to the Angels in the Freeway Series. Speaking of the Angels, they have had their fair share of struggles due to their bullpen problems. As recently the Dodgers split their doubleheader, which was a makeup doubleheader against the Twins. The Angels won the first game yesterday 7-1, while they lost the second game 6-3. Against the Cleveland Indians, they lost 2 out of 3 against the Indians. The Angels won the first game 7-4, but lost games 2 and 3 by scores of 6-5 and 3-2. Other thing to note is that Mike Trout is injured, and he is slated to be out 6 to 8 weeks, which really made my stomach hurt. It was not fun, and it's like, gosh, dang it. But at least Shohei Ohtani has been hitting dingers, which has been absolutely amazing, and I am all for seeing Shohei Ohtani just doing his thing. The Angels need to pay that man the money, and like right now. If not, they need to use that money for the freaking bullpen and for like getting good pitchers and whatnot. So there's that. And then jumping over to the Padres. The Padres are starting to get their momentum back, in my opinion. They've won 6 in a row, and they're only 1 game back of the Giants. So my thing is for the Padres is they shouldn't focus on the Giants and Dodgers. They should focus on themselves, because no matter who wins or who loses that Giants-Dodgers series, it's not going to really matter if the Padres don't do their job and start picking up where they left off. Recently, the Padres swept the Colorado Rockies in a 3-game series, and then they also swept the St. Louis Cardinals in a 3-game series. So far, the Padres are looking good. Like I said, they've won 6 in a row. This weekend, the Padres take on the Seattle Mariners. The Mariners have been somewhat of a surprise. They looked good early on, and now they've kind of cooled off, which is kind of typical Mariners fashion. So there's that for the Mariners. I hope the Padres at least take 2. If they don't take 2, then we could have problems for the Padres. And then next week, the Padres have a 4-game series at Milwaukee. And then next Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, they have a 3-game series at Houston. So there is that for them, and that is going to be that for everything MLB related, and I think that's going to be that for this entire show. I'm not going to go... I feel I've covered my bases, hence me finishing up with baseball, but I think I've covered practically everything that needs to be covered. Again, it's just me trying to get back into the swing of things when it comes to this whole thing, but I think it's going to do it tonight or today for the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. It felt great to be back, honestly. I know I haven't been doing this on a weekly basis, but I will also say this, it just felt good to be back on the mic talking some Southern California sports and whatnot. So I appreciate everybody tuning in on this beautiful Friday afternoon. Next Friday, I can guarantee you there won't be a show of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Why? Because I am graduating from Long Beach State. So, yay! I don't think there's going to be a show at all next week unless I could squeeze it in on Saturday. if anything, I'll keep y'all updated, but it's looking like there's not going to be a show. So if I don't do a show next week, I'm not dead or anything. I'm just not going to be there for next week. So for now, that's going to do it for this week's episode. Thank you to Larry B for popping in the chat room. I really do appreciate you talking SoCal sports with me, talking Chargers and Rams and Lakers and how the Suns made the postseason for the first time since 1910, even though it's 2010. But regardless, I do appreciate you popping in the chat room, Larry B. Thanks for having me on the Defining Moment 7-year anniversary edition. I greatly appreciate you. I also want to give one more shout out to our sponsor in Southern California, Warriors. It really means a lot to us for you all helping us keep the light on here at IE Sports Radio, because without you, we would most likely not be here. Most likely, but still. I digress, but I definitely appreciate Southern California Warriors for being the official sponsor of IE Sports Radio. And you can listen to this show and all of our amazing shows on different platforms such as Spreaker, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Podcast Addict, YouTube. The list goes on and on. We have plenty of platforms you can catch all of our IE Sports Radio shows on. It's not just going to be on Spreaker. It's going to be elsewhere. So that is going to be that for this week's episode of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Without any further delay, it is time for me to get on out of here because I got some important business to attend to and I've got some work. You know what I mean, Jelly Bean? Thank you once again for tuning into the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. I definitely appreciate it. Whether you were listening live or whether you were listening via podcast, I greatly, greatly appreciate it. It means a lot to me. And once again, shout out to my boy Larry B for popping in the chat room and just chilling out and talking all sorts of sports with me and making great analogies. So thank you, Larry B. Keep doing what you're doing, my guy. And hope to see you in the chat room in the near future. For everyone here at IE Sports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. Have yourselves an amazing weekend. Enjoy the Southern California weather. If you're going to the beach, wear lots of sunscreen because summer is here. And I will see you all on Monday for Set Point. Most likely Monday, if not maybe Tuesday. Like, it all depends. And thank you, Larry B, for saying great show, Teran. I appreciate you. And I can't wait to see you when you go live. But once again, thank you all for tuning in to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. I'll see you all on the other side. Take care, and remember, SoCal is for SoCal. Peace.